When General Hospital villain Drew Cain was shot twice in the back in his home, there was a long list of suspects, but I know who really pulled the trigger. Drew, Cameron Matheson, has been making enemies in Port Charles for over a year. Drew started out on General Hospital as a hero, but he's since become one of the most notorious villains in the show's history. The list of suspects for the shooter is long because Drew has hurt so many people. Drew had an affair with Willow Tate, Caitlin McMullen, who was his nephew Michael Corinthos, Rory Gibson, wife, and he's been controlling her ever since by making her believe that he's the only person who can help her get her children, Wiley, Viren Weaver, and Amelia, back after a judge awarded full custody of them to Michael. However, Willow found out that Drew had an affair with her mother, Nina Reeves, Cynthia Watrose, on their wedding day, and she ended their relationship. This was short-lived though, because Drew once again convinced her that he's the only one who'll be able to reunite her with her kids. Although she's agreed to get back together with him, Willow still holds a lot of resentment toward Drew. Before his shooting, Drew provoked Michael into punching him in the face. Because of all of this, Drew has also made an enemy of his ex-girlfriend Carly Corinthos, Laura Wright, who's Michael's mother, Michael's father, Sonny Corinthos, Maurice Bernard, and his twin brother, Jason Morgan, Steve Burton. In addition, Jen Sidwell, Carlo Rota, with whom Drew once schemed to take down Sonny, has since turned against him. Drew also betrayed his former best friend, Curtis Ashford, Donald Turner, and has been blackmailing Curtis' wife, Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr, for tampering with hospital test results. He's also behind Curtis' aunt, Stella Henry, Vernie Watson, being investigated for insurance fraud. Curtis and Portia's daughter, Trina, Tabinana Ali, and her ex-boyfriend, Kai Taylor, Jens Austin Strupp, were in Drew's house stealing the evidence against Portia when the shots were fired, but they left quickly, leaving Drew to be found later by his aunt, Tracy Quartermain, Jane Elliott. On top of all of this, Drew has made enemies with his late ex-wife Sam McCall's, Kelly Monaco, family when he got restraining orders against her mother, Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Gron, and sisters Christina Corinthos, Kate Monsey, and Molly Lansing Davis, Kristen Vaganos, in addition to Danny Morgan, Asher Antonizin, and Rocco Falconeri, Finn Carr, to keep them away from his daughter with Sam, Scout, Cosette Abenanti. Several of these characters have recently threatened Drew's life, which makes them prime suspects in his shooting. However, knowing Drew, I believe that there's a much more unhinged explanation for why he was shot. Drew Cain might have hired someone to shoot him to frame Michael Corinthos. Drew would do anything to eliminate Michael. General Hospital's Rory Gibson, Michael Corinthos, and Cameron Matheson, Drew Cain, in a confrontation. Image via ABC. Despite the fact that Drew has so many enemies, all signs point to him hiring someone to shoot him in order to frame Michael for the crime. Although it seems completely insane that Drew would put his own life at risk, nothing about his actions lately have been stable. Drew has been lashing out at everyone, and is totally out of control. In fact, the first thing he did when he woke up after his surgery was accuse Michael of shooting him, even though he was shot in the back and didn't see his attacker. Because of their Drew and Michael's constant conflict, even Carly began to believe that Michael might have shot him. Drew could have hired someone who'd know exactly where to shoot him so that he'd be injured, but not killed. Although one of the bullets was dangerously close to paralyzing him, it didn't, which could prove that his shooter was instructed to make the crime look real, but not make it life-changing or deadly. Drew hates Michael so much, and is so obsessed with Willow, that it's highly possible that he'd do something so drastic to have Michael jailed. Making things more complicated though is the fact that Michael's great-aunt, Tracy, saw him outside of Drew's house on the night of the shooting, but she said that she won't tell the police. However, Rory Gibson, who portrays Michael, hopes that he's not guilty of the crime. He told Soap Opera Digest, "I feel kind of conflicted about it. On the one hand, Drew has definitely done the most and I'm sure Michael definitely wants to see him gone." Gibson continued, "But at the same time, it's almost like, if he did that, then everything that Drew has told Willow about him becomes true, like, Michael really is just a monster, this terrible person that he's painted him out to be in her eyes." Considering all of the evidence, it appears that Michael being Drew's shooter is just a red herring, and the congressman set the whole thing up himself. Drew has a history of doing reckless things to keep Willow in his clutches. Drew would do anything to control Willow. General Hospital's Caitlin McMullen, Willow Tate, and Cameron Matheson, Drew Cain, in a confrontation. Credit, ABC via Moviestills DB. Drew wants to control Willow, and, any time he sees her making any sort of compromise with Michael, he interferes and puts a stop to it. When Willow went to visit Michael when he was hospitalized in a burn unit in Germany, Drew paid the nurse there to tell Willow that he refused to see her. Drew also tried to manipulate Michael's young son, Wiley, into believing that Michael didn't want him anymore because he had a new baby, Daisy, with Sasha, Sophia Matson. The fact that he'd manipulate a child's emotions to get what he wanted was despicable. It seems that there's no limit to what Drew will do to keep Willow in his clutches, and Michael out of her life. In addition, before Drew became a full villain, and he was dating Carly, he went to prison for her when he took the fall when they were accused of insider trading. He put his own life at risk by doing this because he was nearly beaten to death while there.